Hello and welcome to Eat Your Backyard, the Eat Your Backyard Sunday live stream podcast. And I am so glad that you joined me. If you're watching this after the recording, I would encourage you to check out the rest of the Eat Your Backyard portfolio of videos where I basically try to encourage people to explore edible gardening in their own backyards for all the reasons that is so cool to do. Also, hoping to see some friends of the channel jump on today. We've been doing this now for over 10 years, the channel itself, and developed quite a community. We're up to about 34,000 subscribers right now, which is amazing to me to think that that's even possible. I'm very grateful. By the way, if you're not already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. Also, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, get involved. Okay, so I have some loosely planned concepts for today. You can maybe see some of my hens eagerly awaiting action here because they know I'm out here. They're tracking my every movement in case I give them treats, and we are going to give them treats. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up. We are going to give them treats, and I have some very special treats planned. We have chickens and we have rabbits, and they are both integral parts of the system that we have established here. So I would encourage you also to check out those potential animal choices for your backyard if possible. It's possible here. Now, what do we have here? Bananas growing in a fig tree? No. This is a hand of delicious bananas that came off of that tree right there. You see, I just kind of folded it over to harvest it and left it there. I'm going to also saw that in half to show you what, if you're not familiar, what a banana tree looks like on the inside. It's kind of cool, I think. And this is kind of like if you were hanging out with me in my backyard and I was showing you around what's going on. This is about exactly what I do. So we picked a few bananas and we're going to explore one of the great joys of having chickens, which is feeding them treats. And if you have chickens, you know exactly what I mean. And these are not like quote unquote grocery store bananas in the sense that they have very thin skins. They're very, very sweet, delicious. These are perfectly ripe. Now we're not going to give them all to the hens, but you know, who wouldn't want to give these sweet girls some treats? Oh, there goes one. They'll eat the peels too, oddly enough. As soon as they see, they're so smart. Yeah, see, she sees I'm still unwrapping one. That's a barred rock. That's a golden sex-link. Two varieties of chickens, very common. Oops. They'll better divide it up a bit. There you go. Oh, you were without a whole banana. Well, the proactive chicken gets the banana, yes. One weren't willing to fight for it. Yeah, so bananas are coming in back here. Now, one of the goals I had for this backyard was to have year-round fruit, year-round food. And we've got about 5 or 6 things coming in right now. Of course, the banana just happened not that long ago. And I generally take the banana hand and I'll just set it on some rocks or whatever in my landscaping rock to ripen up. And that's what happened to those. Picked those about a week ago. I found that's the best way to do it. Hello, Baldwin. Thank you for joining the stream. He says, holy smoke, alive, that's cool. Yeah, you betcha. Gerald Franz, great to see you, Gerald. Gerald says, good Sunday morning, Sir Yoda. Your place is looking very green, my friend. Very nice. Thank you, sir. I appreciate the compliment very much. And we'll go right to the reason why it's looking so green. And it is. I mean, everything is just looking incredibly healthy. And There's a reason, and it's not that complicated, and I want to share it with Earth right now, and that is simply bunny manure. See that? That is, well, it might look kind of to you. It's just bunny manure. Bunny turds. They're vegetarian members, so this isn't like manure of meat animals that has all kinds of harmful bacteria in it. This just has some harmful bacteria in it, but it has a lot of good stuff too. And if you take this scoop of nutrients and give it to a plant, plant wins. If I were to take this into my front yard and throw it in a clump, there would be an incredibly green area of the yard, noticeable difference from all the rest of the yard, and the grass would grow twice as fast. That's how it works. And use this bunny manure for everything. Producers, little bunnies like we do. We have 2 lion heads, but we're going to be getting more bunnies, I think, in the future. Or have access to a rabbitry. And as you can see, the lucky recipient today is, that's the whole process, is this green Malay coconut, which is doing very, very well. Now, the cool thing about bunny manure is, unlike cow manure, it's not hot, quote unquote hot. It's cold manure, meaning you can put it directly around a plant. You don't need to compost it. So it's good, and it's, if you can get them in the dried state, in the little mini turd variety, I'd call it, dried mini turd, great way to go. Those are like time release fertilizers, and I think this kind that's been left out and it's got rain and it's kind of ready to dissolve, that's another great way. That's what I use. I just scoop it out. It's very easy to deal with when you just put it in a pot and dole it out with a little hand spade. So we'll look at what's growing back here and talk about what's going on in early December 2023. Nothing but possibility on the horizon, I would claim. And I've been very busy lately, which is one of the reasons I haven't posted much on Eat Your Backyard. However, I have been posting quite a bit over on Jedi Jingle Maker. That's my original music channel. If you've made it this far in the video, well, then I would also ask you to go check out Jedi Jingle Maker. Give it a sub, leave a comment, give it a thumbs up. I also, since my last video here, I released 2 albums and 4 or 5 singles through this service called DistroKid that sends it out to all the major music platforms. So you can actually find Jedi Jingle Maker on all major music platforms. That's Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, all that. So if you're interested in seeing what I'm doing musically, I've been very involved musically, which in case you don't know, I play guitar. I played guitar for close to 40 years and love it. And I also compose music, so all the music on the channel is 100% my making. So the drums, the bass, all of it. So anyway, I hope you'll check it out. But that's where I've been posting mostly. But here on this channel, I haven't been posting a lot. I am going to get back into the swing of things on this, so stay tuned. Lots of shorts coming out on various topics, and also some longer range videos. I recently released a video, or my last released videos were of the Reed Farm up in DeLand, Florida, or as they say there, DeLand. And beautiful area of Florida, by the way, if you haven't been there. Beautiful little farm and nursery to buy edible things there at the Reed Farm. I would encourage everybody to go up to the Reed Farm and visit that in DeLand. That's a heck of a great way to spend the day. Buy a few things over at Lonnie Reed's farm and plant them in your backyard. He knows so much about edible gardening. It's incredible. And that video is just I will be releasing over the next few months, all of the pieces of it. That it's like an encyclopedia of horticultural knowledge coming from Lonnie in that video. So many things that he knows and grows. I'm still digesting it all. And I plan to go back there. I've just been so busy, so busy. Clifford Baldwin says, hey, when the wild stuff starts to propagate, you're going to do a video forging the wilder vegetation. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that means. But I will show you something very wild. First of all, pan hanging in a tree. It's called a tree pan, in case you didn't know. This is my compost bin. There are many others like them. However, this is my compost bin. And in my compost bin goes a magical concoction of carbon and other organics that form something like a magical fertilizer for plants. And this has layers of, you can see, areca palm fronds drying up, robolini palm fronds, chicken compost, manure bedding, chicken bedding, various sticks from this black sapote chocolate pudding tree above me. I also put down a layer of, sometimes I'll do this, which is I'll let a product like this, just basic bunny manure, I'll put it in a bucket like that and fill about half of it with water, stir it up, make a slurry basically, and then just put down a layer of that in the compost bin. So that, what you get is soil. This in about a year that is incredibly rich, and it's amazing. And full of worms. I mean, under here, by the way, under this machine, there are colonies of worms living, a colony of worms living that are just going to town, and that's good for everything. Another cool thing about the backyard that I think is cool is to have plenty of opportunity for fungus to grow, and to do that, fungus plays a role. And I'm not claiming to know exactly what that role is, but it plays a role in nature. And you might say it destroys things, and it does break down things. But I think it also is a key part of soil health, is to have fungus. And so I've been playing around with that idea. I put oak branches as edging back here, kind of an eclectic play for edging. See, I didn't know how it would exactly look, but I'm pretty happy with it, actually. You'll see it throughout the yard. Beats just sending it off to the yard waste place, but I also thought, well, what's the effect of having wood on the ground like in a normal natural situation have? And I'm assuming it's very good. And this turkey tail fungus that grows, this is an interesting variety of it. I don't know if this is exactly, I don't actually know what variety this is, but it looks like turkey tail the way it spreads out in that disc horizontally from the wood. But really, really interesting types of fungus growing all over the backyard. This one's like a fuzzy one. I'll show you many other varieties, but there is just fungus growing everywhere. And part of that's because I've let this get a little too shady. I need to get to dealing with what I call the north-south light corridor, which is this area. And you can see it's pinching in. When it gets this skinny, it should probably be about that wide right here. Everything just cleared out so that at least once in the middle part of the day, this whole area gets sun. Otherwise, it doesn't. And then, well, this is from massive amounts of football throwing is why our lawn looks like this. We run on it all the time, every single night. So the fact that it can even exist at all with that amount of well, just destroying it all the time is amazing. But you can see under here, that's not from football. That's from just shade. Now, all of this leaf matter, that's all going to be raked up and thrown in the compost bin. I also do other kinds of composting, which I recently moved a bunch of pots over here from an area I had on the side of my house, so it looks kind of disorganized, but there's a method to the madness. This is an area where I compost by just laying stuff down in piles, and these piles have been pretty high, and they always just down, down, down. They just turn into soil over time. You might say this is also an opportunity for animals and things to make homes in there. Yeah, and but that could be a problem. This is true, but I haven't had a problem yet. And mostly what I find is it just breaks down into soil. And this is a convenient way to, as long as you don't put too much stuff, just to allow the process to happen. But all of this leaf matter will be put back into the compost bin. Now, look at this beautiful carambola. That is a good example of what that bunny turd bunny manure approach can give you. There's so much fruit, I couldn't possibly harvest it all. Just loaded. Not bad. I smell it. Smells so good. I love the smell of it, this variety of starfruit. Okay, looking at the comments. Clifford Baldwin said, I meant vegetation. I'm using that talk, to text thing. Oh, you're using talk to text. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I have made the yard much more wild in terms of the vegetation, certainly. One thing I did was to plant ground cover type plants. There's this, I think it's called traveler spinach, but and Lonnie Reed told me the exact name for it. I need to figure out the name, but this stuff, it tastes like a mild carrot. Actually, it's quite good. Hands will eat it, but there you go. Yeah, the hens eat it, so we put it back there for them. But I've basically just taken cuttings of this and planted it all over the yard, and it's grown in everywhere. So anywhere that there would have been a open, sandy, because this is a very arid place. We get it rainy for periods of time, and then it's very dry for periods of time in Florida, where I'm at, coastal Florida. So an area like this is now completely grown in, and I've been trying to trim it back just a bit to make sure we can see our pink flamingos enough. But yeah, trying to add in more just wild vegetation, more or less, to make it look more lush and green, and it sure has worked. This is a keeper of a plant for me. The fact that it can do so well here, even with the salty irrigation, is amazing. Now this is a type of plant called Biden's alba. It's just a common weed that grows everywhere in Florida, and Lonnie Reed taught me that it actually has all these incredible properties to it. It's actually very good for you, so I picked some wild pieces of it, just growing around. It grows everywhere. It's a weed. Most people try to get rid of it, of course, but I planted it all over, so it's growing in, and I even planted some of the seeds down here. You can see they are growing in just great. So yeah, that's another example of just making it a little bit more wild. You can see I planted it all along the base of these logs at the bottom of the mango tree. This Hayden mango tree went through a massive cut this year. I've done massive cuts on it before. You can see this is one that's healing up over many years, but that branch there was just cut right off, and so were several others. I'll show you one here. You can see that one's just cut right off, and it is growing back very strong. The reason I had to do that was because of this. I did the dummy thing. I planted it way too close to a 220 volt power line, and that's no good. We don't want to die for mangoes. And whenever they start to get sort of close, I've got to keep it way back, and I've got to even trim it back one more time. The right move would have been to completely take it out. That way I don't have to sweat this, but I'm going to keep it just trimmed back so I can enjoy the Hayden mangoes because I love them so much. But eventually I'll have to deal with this whole area. This is an old fort that I built for my kids. All my kids have played in it. It's getting old and dilapidated. I'll have to at some point deal with that. But for now, it's got a nice, to me, a charming kind of aesthetic to it, which is the wabi-sabi. If you're not familiar with wabi-sabi, the term wabi-sabi, it's a, I believe, a Zen, Japanese artistic perspective on the world, and it's basically the concept of perfect imperfection. That in imperfection there is perfection. Of course, you could also mask just like by that kind of concept. So I'd say, like anything, it's an art. I want to just highlight really quickly the role of things like croton and dracaena. These aren't edibles, and a lot of the time I talk with people that are growing edible backyards, they almost start to frown on the non-edible stuff. Like they don't have anything that's non-edible, and I think that's a big mistake. I love plants with colorful leaves, like the croton. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat that in terms of the look of a plant. I'll give you another example. croton that is actually pretty easy to acquire. Here's a very common type of croton. Look at those colors. It's amazing. And there's so many varieties of it. And the other thing is Dracaena. Many varieties of Dracaena. This is going to come way back. It's kind of overgrown, but that's okay. All this, by the way, is chop and drop. All this is compost. So it's good that I'm producing lots of material. It's just time for a trim. Trim will happen in Florida, by the way. This is how I do it. It happens when it gets cold, not when it's 100 degrees outside and 100% humidity with 5-mile-an-hour wind. That's not the time to do it. Time to do it is in January, December, February. That's the time to really, I believe, do the trimming. Of course, you take a risk when you trim things back that time of the year if you're on kind of the line of subtropical to tropical zones, whereas we have year-round growing in Florida, so you have to be sensitive to the occasional frost coming. If you trim something back, it shoots new growth, and then the frost comes, of course, that'll burn the new growth very easily. It's very tender. So there is that risk. I haven't found it to be a problem, and you know what counteracts that risk a lot? Bunny manure. Yeah. Ice Catcher Epic says, does bunny manure work on custard apple trees? Yeah, absolutely. Here's one right here. Custard apple. And, well, you could probably see some bunny manure around it, but I give it bunny manure all the time, and I believe that is why it's survived, because otherwise I think it would be dead. There we go. There's a heap and handful. No, I wouldn't scoop it with my hands, but unless I had to. There it is. And I just break it up a little so it can be dissolved more evenly around the roots. But answer your question? Yes, it does work. It works on everything as far as I'm concerned. I haven't found anything that seemed to suffer from it. It's a very, very non-intrusive fertilizer. Since it works, you can put it right on vegetable garden, you can put it on whatever, straight into the bed. All right, this is one of my favorite kinds of saws, a pull saw. This is a Corona saw. Not sponsored by Corona, but I've bought so many of these. It's a style where you pull to cut. I find that to be quite nice. I thought we would, in this video, oh, by the way, let's look at this real quick. It might be hard to figure out what this is, but this is the trunk of a massive papaya tree that fell down. And you can see isn't that interesting? You can see the structure within it. It's so fibrous. But rather than cut it up and send it off to yard waste, I just cut the logs. You see, here's one end of the log, here's another end of the log, and place them around. And it has completely, there's one back in there, you can see. It completely has disintegrated down into the soil. And while it was doing that, it was also preventing moisture loss in the soil. It was doing a lot of things. So I just take things like this and I place them on the ground, and then they become soil. That's the process. In a place like this where it's very, very sandy, see those hens, they're hoping I do something. The soil just wants to eat up any organic thing, especially where there's water under it. Everything gathers there. All right, let's see if I can do this one-handed. I'm going to step on it here. Sometimes I get comments like, hey, you're wearing flip-flops to gardening? I always wear flip-flops to gardening. All right. Pull it. Oops. Oh yeah, just being held by just one little. There's a croton under there that's going to be destroyed if I do this. Sorry. Best laid plan mice and then. There it is. Okay. So there you go. That is a big trunk of banana. Now, if it were a papaya, I'd probably just lay it back down and let it decay over the next month or so, a couple of months. But since it's a banana trunk, guess what loves to eat gonna put this saw back over here. Guess what loves to eat banana tree trunk? I found this out because I used to have banana trees back in the chicken pen, but they ate every single one. Chickens. All right, drag this sucker back in. All right, I'm gonna toss this over the front. No chickens there, so I don't have to worry about crushing them. All right, let's see if those hens come in and start to work on it. I think it's cool to put things back in here that they can investigate and mess around with. There she goes. They'll figure out it's banana and then it'll be over. There you go. In yard waste. So we get these kind of symbiotic situations happening all the time with these chickens. They will eat all of your food waste from your kitchen pretty much here in the chicken pen, because I'm always throwing like grass clippings and whatever, anything organic back in there in order to have the chickens break it down into soil. All right, let's look back on some of the comments. Ice Catcher Epic says, how does bunny manure work? Okay, bunny manure is very simple. I will summarize the situation. The first thing is, of course, to get some bunnies. And if you can find the larger bunnies, like what they call meat rabbits, or the ones that people grow for meat, those are the best kind, probably. But you basically contain those in a cage that has a bottom that allows the manure to drop through to a catcher, and you catch all of that manure and in a pan, and then basically collect it over a period of time. That's the whole process. You don't have to do much more than that other than feed the bunnies. Now, feed and keep them watered, provide shelter, which is a fairly simple thing to do. You know, I put a fair amount of thought into all that stuff, so we have them in a bunny run over here where they each get to exercise each day out of the cage. They've got soft places that they can be in the cage that it's not wire under their feet. They've got all that kind of stuff. So the bunny run, we're in there interacting with them all the time. These are well cared for bunnies. You know, you don't have to go that far, that's for sure. But the bunnies are amazing, and they're the thing that brought this whole yard together. They connected every single thing here. But without them, everything is different. And you can't bring in granular fertilizer or cow manure or any of that stuff and have the same result. It's radically different. The result you're seeing here in an area that, by the way, is very arid, very salty, very, very hot, and everything is doing fantastic. Every time you put something down on the ground, like I said, water retention, nutrient return, brings in the bugs, promotes the fungus, very simple things. I'm not saying I understand how all of it works. I'm not sure you need to. Of course you can, it's a fun game, but you don't need to. You just kind of do what you see nature already doing and get out of the way of that, and I think you have pretty good results just with that. Now, these are some things I grew from seeds, a couple of palm trees. I'm raising them up in the shade, like young palm trees like. This beauty, I'm quite happy to report, is a Chinese fan palm. Look at that, isn't that incredible? Grew that from seeds. If you haven't seen my videos on growing palm trees from seeds, it's rather easy to do. You should go check those out. But the primary thing is to plant them on top of the soil, which is counterintuitive, and keep them watered in the shade, that kind of thing. That and be able to wait the amount of times it takes for them to germinate, which can be pretty long for some of the palm trees. And you can produce results like this. I've got several other varieties of palm trees growing right here and there. All use that same method. All right, let's see what else. I'll look back on the comments just for a second here. We're underneath the Hayden mango tree. By the way, this Tommy Atkins mango tree, which I keep carefully trimmed away from the house, that produced so many delicious mangoes this year, I stopped counting. All right. The other question is, Ice Catcher Epic says, my custard apple tree drops its leaves. Yeah, I had the same problem with this tree, for sure. It came as a beautiful specimen and barely clung to life, I will tell you. Barely. And the primary culprit in my yard is going to be the salty irrigation, which showers onto it and kills the leaves. That's still happening, and you can see at the bottom here, the burn that happens from the sprinklers. Less so up top, but the giving of the manure is what allowed it to go up above the line. Now, it's in a very slim zone of survivability here, because above these shrubs, it will get hammered by salt winds from the ocean. The ocean's that way about 4 blocks, so it just is like a flamethrower of salt spray through that zone. So everything you see above here that isn't salt tolerant, like this palm tree, this coconut tree, would be fine. It had no problem with the salt. This fig tree, not so fine with the salt, but it's fine in this zone. So I've got this zone of about 20 feet where things can grow, fruit can grow, unless I let this shrub go up higher, but then it would have to be up in these lines, and I don't want that. But I specifically have this seawall to prevent all the burn that happens from the salt spray. And then I have the salt coming out of the irrigation water as well. It's very salty well water. So yeah, those things, the only way this stuff can grow through all of that is with intense nutrient availability, you know, all the time. And so, yeah, I wish you luck with your custard apple. It's been a challenge of mine to get mine moving, but it's moving now. And now that it has this nice center trunk, it should do very, very well, is my thinking on that. And this spring, I'm going to be planting several other things in the backyard here, so stay tuned. All right. Oh, the moment ends. Says, how often do you get transplant pups from your banana tree, and what varieties grow well here? Great question. The moment ends. Really great question. I use various varieties of Musa bananas, which are most of the ones you see around here. I think are probably going to be Musa. I think these are the red Musa. They're the kind that you can, the same kind of Musa bananas you could get at any Lowe's or Home Depot. It's not some special, you know, variety. But it's special in the sense that it grows, and this one is smart. It's growing farther and farther from the chicken pen, because if it's anywhere close to that, they will peck at the base of it and destroy it. But I try to remove pups anytime I see more than 2 growing around the base of a banana tree. This is where I transplanted the banana trees from the other side of my yard when I built my chicken pen, and I haven't seen any pup explosions yet, but you can see back here some decent pups starting up. I gave these Cavendish bananas a good try. Those are dwarf bananas, and they're just not surviving, and it's mostly because it's very dry back here, but a lot of things conspiring to shut these down. The shade I allowed to grow up top here, I need to trim back this strawberry tree dramatically. I need to get this whole area dealt with. But I would say I harvest pups once a year if I can, and move them around. This is a pup that I put into this bed here not that long ago, and I'd say it's doing okay. You know what it needs? I just realized. That's what it needs. Yep, that is landscape gold. And it's that simple. The moment ends says, love crotons as well. Mom has had them for decades now, going to do some air layering this spring. That's smart. Yeah, I love the air layering approach. And great way to go. Yeah, grow the roots up in like a sack of dirt, you know, taped onto the branch. Outstanding way to grow them. They are iffy in terms of growing them from a cutting if you do it other ways. If I'm going to do it, I'll usually plant like 5 or 10 different cuttings in the pot just to try to get one that'll take, depends on the croton variety. Some are better than others. This Mamie, I think that's called Mamie, but this type of croton, very common type, is very easy to grow. Oh, look what we have here. That is a Muntingia fruit, one of my favorites. I call it cotton candy tree. It tastes about like cotton candy. This is the slow time of the season, and this is what the slow time of the season is like. You're still, getting more than enough. But this thing will really go gangbusters this year. I had a tragic situation where that giant papaya I was talking about here collapsed right down here, and it broke off a huge part of this Muntingia. Luckily, it survived, but that is a horrible wound. It's trying to grow around it, so we'll see what happens. But again, bunny manure. Bunny manure. Broken record? Yes, a broken bunny manure record. But it did shoot up this really large central branch, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, just because I don't want this to become very shady. It's nice to have lower stuff, actually, if possible. Yeah, chick, chick. Yeah, chick, chick. Can't believe they're not coming. Yeah, chick, chick. Oh, they're over there eating their banana branch. Look at you, chickens. Here, yeah. They love the cherries. These are fruit chickens. Isn't that interesting? They've been pecking away at that trunk ever since. By the way, the chicken coop build, still going strong. A little rusty, to be expected. I'm gonna have to do a few repairs on it here within the next year, but the design has worked out really well. I made it so that it's very, very heavy duty, but I made it so that this under area is a place where the chickens can go for shelter when it rains. And you know, the coop area also seems to be big enough, so it's a great situation. These hens have a lot of space to roam around back in here, and I even made chicken feeding door. It's a door within a door. Very nice. Okay, let's see what else is going on. By the way, one of the things I am hoping to do here coming up is to do some backyard concerts, so to speak, with the Jedi Jingle Maker tracks that I have on my original music channel. By the way, if you're not already a subscriber to Jedi Jingle Maker, please go over and subscribe. I'm also on all the major music platforms, so you can hear Jedi Jingle Maker music anytime you want. Yeah, this moringa tree here was grown from a seed. It's getting rather large. They get very leggy. You can see how soft this thing is. I think it's smart to bend them over when they're young if you can, to keep them low, but this one is getting away from me, along with this strawberry tree. But I had two seeds I let grow next to each other. Look at the size of that trunk. That is a year, just to give you perspective, I'll show you with my hand. That is a year and a half of growth, about. No longer than 2 years, so man, do they grow quickly. Now that it's got a decent root structure, I can trim it back, certainly. But you know, when everything's shaded out, you've got something more like a rainforest with nothing growing in the under canopy. So I am in need of providing more shade. Now look at this mango tree. Notice anything about it? It's got flowers all over it. That's an Edward mango tree. And it's a very early flower, which has been a problem for it every year. Meaning we've never gotten fruit off of it. Last year we had 3 nice ones, and they all got knocked off the tree before their time. I think a couple got, the squirrels got, and the other one it got destroyed in the fall. So this is not good for the odds of this tree to survive with fruit this year, because this is way early. It shouldn't be doing this until at least late January, but too late now. My hope is it doesn't convince all the other mango trees to start blooming flowers, but we will see. This is a big year for tree trimming in this backyard because of the light, but also because I have mango trees like this, which are a little overdue, and you don't want to let them become skyscrapers like I did with that one, because then the fruit's up too high and it just becomes very impractical to deal with. And there's also big risk of them getting knocked over in windy conditions. They're not that strong, in my opinion. So this one was easy 45, 50 feet tall. Brought it back down to about 20-ish. Well, I mean, I brought it down to about 10 or 12, and it's come back up to about 20 since then. But you can see they come back very rapidly. That was completely topped. Left one side branch just so it had leaves. Completely topped, and it's come back this far. Now, one of the things I need to do with this is get some of these larger branches, attach ropes, bend them down, tilt them down to train them to grow this way so that they don't grow towards that. As opposed to having skyscraper things, I need lateral branches. That's the more lateral branches you have, the more opportunity you have for fruit. So that is what I want. And I don't want it wants to just go for the sky. That thing will be 60 feet tall in no time if I let it. So, you know, it's a never-ending management of this stuff to some extent, just in terms of the trimming. And I always think of the trimming as the biomaterial that you need to feed back into the yard, via these composting bins, via just lay it on the ground, and many other ways. Yeah, moment ends. 2023, big mango season. I dehydrated so many mangoes, I still have them in storage. A few weeks ago, had 30-mile-an-hour onshore winds for what? Yeah, for a while. That's right. Yeah, that's you can just expect that, right? I expect that every year, especially this time of year, where it's just going to be, yeah, 20-mile-an-hour plus east winds laden with salt spray for weeks, and that'll happen over and over and over again. And that's the time where your backyard's challenged, and it needs to have the strength to get through that. In a lot of ways, I do the wind barriers, I do the fertilizers. Do I have squirrels to deal with? The moment ends ask. Yes, I do. They are back here all the time. In fact, we have very forward squirrels, meaning they will come down and get within very close of us, and they're constantly going around the backyard. And they do take their toll on some amount of the fruit, but to be honest, we don't really mind it, just because there's more than we can consume here. So although they have an impact, it's not that big of one. We also have a lot of lizards back here, healthy lizard population, but any lizard that's in the chicken pen will be immediately eaten by the chickens. Oh, okay, you have an artesian well. Is it still okay for watering fruit trees? Yeah, I would say the risk there of having an artesian well or a more shallow well is just that there could be more salt in the groundwater if you're beachside, if you're near the ocean. It all depends on what's in the water in terms of the minerals and the salt composition. There's a lot of salt in our wells here, so in our ground wells, both of wells, whether you go deeper or shallow. And so the key there is just not to let the water get on the leaves of the plants, in my opinion. That can be difficult to do, but you know, position the sprinkler heads, etc., to allow for that, so you don't get too much spray on the leaves. That seems to be the one thing that would reduce the risk of doing that. Yeah, my local well, I have a shallow well. I forget the name of the. Sorry, I had a gnat go down my. Tried to fly up my nose. Little fruit fly. Yeah, that well has been salty ever since I, bought the house, and I believe it probably gets more salty over the years. But it's nice to have free water, so to speak. So, there's just so many people with wells around where I live. It's bound to happen, especially with the ocean being so close. But I mean, what's the alternative? I have many friends that have rain barrels, and they collect the water off of their roof, etc., into barrel. That's a good way to go if you have the resolve to do it. It's a lot of work, that's for sure. Get those barrels set up and have them working right and keep them maintained so that they still work right and deal with that quantity of water. You need a system. It's an actual investment of time and money and resources over time. So that's, but I get it. I think that's about the best way to go if you're willing to put in that kind of level of work. Oh, is that your Surf's Up flag in the background, says Gerald Franz? Yes, it is. And the surf flag says south winds. South, southwest, south winds. No bueno. No bueno is what I say about that for surfing. Today's a good day to do some songwriting and throw the football and watch the Bucks game, I'm thinking. The Reed Farm is on the stream. I am so happy. Hello, Reed Farm, and welcome. Welcome. I've gotten 2 of those videos out from our visit. Well, it wasn't that recently, but several months ago, and I'm getting ready to release more, so looking forward to getting those out onto the interwebs. Like I said, it's an encyclopedia of horticultural information to sift through. Really incredible. Oh, awesome. Awesome. The moment ends. Think I will take sample test, 6-year-old house. And am I thinking rain barrels too? Yeah, rain barrels is the best, reliable way to get clean water, in my opinion, if you're beachside. If you're in a salty irrigation thing. You know, not everybody has to worry about it. I'm guessing good old Liney Reed out there at the Reed Farm is not too worried about salty irrigation water. Yeah, in fact, we had a number of conversations about this concept of, you know, him helping to mitigate some of these difficulties here. Stay tuned for that. Oh, the moment ends. There's a good amount of roof square footage to catch rain. That's true. Well, I mean, with almost every house, right? Surfers always check winds first thing in the morning. That's right. I must know. Oh, you see, whenever we call that a happy flag. That flag's pointing west. So we might have to check that as we get to lower tide and make sure we don't miss any happy times with the offshore winds and the waves. I didn't see too much of a wave this morning. I generally keep a close eye on it. Okay, yeah, Reed Farm says, you're talking about wells. I'm uploading a video we did last week, pulling up an old well and installing a new pump and pipe. Awesome. Yeah, you guys have all the skills to get all that stuff done out there in beautiful DeLand. Man, I'm so impressed by that area. You know, when I went out to the Reed Farm, I got out of my truck and the first thing I heard was this strange sound and turned around and there were like 4 or 5 turkeys, like a stone's throw from me, which is really unusual. Here in the more suburban area, we don't just have turkeys roaming around, or it's big news if one coyote is seen. Sometimes people see a coyote. Not sure how that even happens, but sometimes it happens. But yeah, it's really wild out there. I love it. All right, let's see. All right, so some other things that I've got going on. As I walk around this yard, I just think it is so shady, crazy shady. This isn't gonna work. And I need to, first cold snap, get this stuff trimmed back. At least the stuff that I don't need, like this giant strawberry tree that I grew from a seed. I mean, that thing is just dominating now in an unhealthy way. The loquat tree back here is not doing a lot, but I have high hopes it'll fruit this year, so I'm going to keep it going. The Barbados cherry, it's looking very healthy, but I'm going to probably bring that one way back. Suriname cherry, which I love, but I know there's mixed opinions on that. I have a good variety, it tastes great. Is doing quite well. I'm going to keep that up. This thing, though, the black sapote, the chocolate pudding tree, of course, there's a bomb that hit the ground, a giant black sapote. You can see the chocolate pudding look of the fruit. This is why they call it chocolate pudding tree. Looks like chocolate pudding. I like it. It's okay. It's kind of like a bland avocado, in my opinion. Very bland. It's loaded with them. Loaded with them. But it's a dominator. Can't be this tall. I don't want to have a tree that tall because then everything on this side of it gets the shade shadow. And yeah, it's not necessary. Well, okay, I hope you will all taste like mushrooms and dirt. Yeah, exactly. That's a great description of the chocolate pudding tree, mushrooms and dirt. Yeah, it's like it's got an earthy flavor to it, that's for sure. And they are big, really big. Of course, they've been much bigger since we've been feeding them the bunny manure. I've been re-upping my papaya tree collection. One of the things that Lonnie was able to show me was how to harvest papaya correctly, which is to bleed the latex out of them, you know, prior to picking them. He showed me the method where, and this will be in one of the videos I released, but to score the side in order for the latex to bleed out prior to picking them. And man, they tasted totally different. Way, way better than any other papaya I've ever had, for sure, grown wild. So I'm going to start doing that now, but in that vein, I've been repopulating I was completely wiped out of papaya trees over the last year because of winds. But I've been regrowing them and repopulating them. Now I have them here and there, a couple in pots. I'll show you one that I've got growing in next to this mango tree. It's a female. And I'll probably do a recreation of Lonnie's thing here, just scoring the side to harvest once it gets a little bigger. But we're almost back into the papaya business, which I would claim that once you bleed the latex out of them, like Lonnie does, it's almost a like a very, very light flavored cucumber in a way. Yeah, really good. Now I want to show you what I mean by the salt spray. This moringa tree was very bushy and green and growing for the sky. And look at it now next to the happy flag. It looks stripped. And that's because of the winds that we had come through and just absolutely fried it. It had absolutely no leaves up here after that was over. Now it's started to regrow just a bit on the tips, but mostly it just got shredded. And that's because there's this gap between here and here that, well, above here, that allows the salt spray to come through. That's it. And you can see this, which is also very tender, didn't really get affected much by it. And that's because it's just below this level. It's amazing what a difference that makes, honestly. And this one's for Lonnie Reed, without a doubt. Look at the Biden's Alba. I went and found some and planted it. This was one that you told me about. And I'd like to get many more, so we need to do a follow-up for sure. And this is motivating me to work on those videos. After looking back on the video that we made, it was so many ideas. I felt like it was almost more than would be good for a video. I mean, that it would be better over time to digest it in topics. So I've been trying to do that. More coming. Yeah, Gerald Franz, you need to share the papaya trick for sure. Absolutely. That'll be coming out on the in the video. But yeah, hey, Lonnie Reed, you should throw up a papaya trick video on your channel. And by the way, everybody on this stream, I would encourage you to go over and give Lonnie a sub, in addition to going over and checking out the nursery, checking out the plants, buying a few things. That is an incredible wonderland of learning and variety. So cool. So cool. Yeah, I could go on and on. All right, well, I think I'm going to go in and continue with the rest of the day. We'll see what happens. Might have to check that surf. You never know. Could be popping up. Could be popping up, and the skies are looking rather blue. I wonder what it's doing in the Atlantic Ocean right now. One easy way to find out: jump on the beach cruiser and pedal to the end of the street. And in the meantime, oh, isn't that cool? Look at all the lizards just outside the chicken pen. Smart lizards stay out of the chicken pen. In the meantime, go sub to Jedi Jingle Maker, leave a comment, let me know you found out about it here. That'll make me happy. Instantly happy. Thanks for watching. Eat Your Backyard. Have a great day.